Welcome, everyone, to the Everyone's Agnostic podcast. This is not a regular episode. This is going to be on the election. I'm Cass Midgley, the co-host of the podcast. So just taking about a few minutes here to share some thoughts, and at the request of a couple of listeners. I mean, this is fodder for a lot of thought, incredibly thought-provoking, and truth is truly stranger than fiction. The bizarro world that we continue to find ourselves in. It was shocking to imagine Trump ever running for president, let alone shocking that he won the primary. We're shocked that he won the presidency. I think there was a sleeper cell of voters that were relatively quiet, maybe even ashamed, holding their nose while they placed a vote for someone that was the lesser of two evils in their mind. And because I don't believe polls exist, I think they're a complete fraud. They're not real. There may be a few that are real, but I've never been polled once in my life. So, most people that I know haven't. So I don't know who the fuck they're talking to, but it's bullshit, and it turned out to be bullshit. But even if they were polling these people, I'm telling you, these people would probably hang up, because there's a degree in which Trump was never... I mean, except for a few assholes and psychopaths or sociopaths that just really celebrate this motherfucker. 50% of the American voting base that came out, they're not all assholes. They're not all bigots. They're not all misogynists or racists. They're not all pussy grabbers. Many of them are ashamed of this guy, just less ashamed and less invested or trusting of Hillary. So here we find ourselves, but we're blindsided, right? Because everybody thought it was going to just be, and I just think it's just unfathomable. I mean, I don't know how, how or why. I know why. All right, here we go. Cognitive dissonance or compartmentalization. This is what we do with shit that is too hard for us to think about. We don't like to think about 20,000 children starving every day. And I think Trump presidency was along those same lines, is because I can't understand why else I would just not have even entertained it for 5 seconds. I can tell in hindsight that I never let myself truly entertain it, because when in fact it did come to fruition, I was shell-shocked, and I drank myself shit-faced until 4 a.m. after leaving a watch party where I was drinking. But the watch party, everybody left there with just a glazed look on their face. These are all liberal friends of mine. And so anyway, the shock, and one thing I want to take away from that is I do realize that culturally and socially there's a perfect storm here. There was a lot going on that made Trump a possibility even. But I also want to acknowledge that he seems like the kind of guy that I don't want to ever count out now. We've counted him out, we've minimized him, we've discarded him, or we've discounted him, and only to have it in our face. My picture is that a couple of years ago at the correspondence dinner, Obama probably spent 10, 15 minutes, maybe 15 or 20 jokes that were completely aimed at Trump. And blow after blow after blow, the laughter in the room is swelling, and the camera keeps going to Trump's face, and he's completely sober. He might be just staring at Obama, who probably was kind of getting back at him for questioning his birth certificate. But either way, I believe that narcissist, and who knows what kind of father wounds he's got. People have read his stuff, and I hear that it was bad. But there's some energy rising up in that motherfucker as he's sitting there getting roasted, lambasted, at everyone's laughing at his expense. His hatred is boiling. There's steam coming out his ears. And he resolved that day. Because one of the jokes was that Obama was basically contrasting the stuff that keeps Obama up at night with the stuff that keeps Trump up at night, which was like, who do I fire tomorrow on The Apprentice? And, made several references to, how stressful it is to be a reality show person. So he set his sights on the White House that day. That's my theory. And there's a degree in which He is somewhat charismatic. It's ironic as fuck because he's repulsive. But he stands in front of a group of people and says, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and y'all would still love me. He stood in Iowa and he said, Iowa people are stupid. There's just no end to the deal breakers that would have put, I wouldn't underestimate this to be, there are 50 comments that came out of his mouth, not just in history, like the pussy grabber stuff that we caught on tape from decades ago, but in the last 12, 16 months, 50 things that he has said, that would have disqualified anyone else in our history. I mean, the norm is that politicians are disqualified right and left by the most minute things, and it's kind of a fragile system. And even Obama, I think one of the reasons that he talks so slow is he has to watch his words. So this is just unprecedented, unorthodox, everything. Unthinkable, unimaginable. And yet here it is. And here we find ourselves. And I'm still in shock. Maybe today, I'm taping this on Thursday night after Tuesday night's election. So 48 hours. It's crazy. So I've written some things. I've come up with some thoughts. But if you don't get anything else out of this talk, there's nothing to fear but fear itself. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of that quote, of that mindset that says, look, just be careful with your own fear. Just like you got to be careful with your own sex or your own eating or your own drinking or your drug habits or whatever. Everything in moderation. Well, fear is more dangerous than any of those things combined, as far as it can destroy you and it can make you do things that you really, really regret. So I'm just going to say, self-examine. Be mindful of what fear is doing in your own heart and soul and mind. There's no soul, but you know what I mean. Fear. What happens is you become what you hate. I've used the metaphor many times. It's the mouse metaphor in Windows XP settings that they'll go from the left side of the screen and to the right, or the asteroid video game. You can go so far away from your opponent, thinking that you're going so far away that you come out on the other side, and next thing you know, you have become what you hate. That's just a psychological fact in my mind. I can't prove it. I'm not a scientist or a psychologist, but just watch this. You hate the way the GOP obstructed Obama. You hated the way people said, he's not my president. You hated the way these people continually thought the fucking sky was falling. Obama's going to take our guns. Obama's going to declare martial law. Obama's going to make America a Muslim nation. All this, dig down deep and draw lines in the sand, and all the aggression that we saw from evangelicals in the last 8 years, all the they just felt threatened into the corner. The war on Christmas, they're fear fucked up motherfuckers. It's just, fear is their full diet, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's what comes out of their ass. It's what goes in their mouth. It's what drives them. It's what animates their corpse, because otherwise they're zombies, and they fear. So all I'm saying is, don't become what you hate. Don't become so afraid of Trump, so afraid of what he's going to do. I work on a liberal college campus, and I literally spent the day today in what could be considered a safe space, a place where people could come and talk about their shock and awe that they are currently experiencing. A lot of students came in, grad students, undergrads, some professors from sociology and anthropology where I work, and a lot of good stuff was aired out. People are trying to stay positive, and we're going to talk about some of those things. But the main thing was there were students that came in there, and we're talking about their fear and the fear of the future. And, we know the map where 18 to 25-year-olds, if they would have been the only ones voted, would have just literally crushed Trump like 80 to 20 or something. But the thing is that when it comes to this fear stuff or this safe space stuff or this, what we'd call political correctness, where we're worried and we're fragile and we're a minority and things like that. And I've said it before, and I err on the side of First Amendment tough guy stuff. I want everybody to get tough-skinned. I'm very much a Nietzschean believer. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Nietzsche was very anti-pity and what he called resentment or ressentiment. But in general, that was a detour. Pity is something to be wary of, just like fear. And just be careful. I'm not a fucking bootstrapper. Don't mistake me for a rugged individualist. I'm an entrepreneur. It's in my veins. It's in my DNA. I like some of the motivation behind people saying, I'm not going to let this count me out. I'm not going to play the victim card just because I blank. However, it is true in my opinion that everywhere that I've heard adamant or vehement criticism of the political correctness movement, mark my words, it's always white males, including Jonathan Haidt, who I really love. White male. That's all I'm saying, is there is a degree in which we have no fucking idea. I sat in a room today with a black young woman, undergrad student at Vanderbilt, who was visibly shaken up, worried about the future, about her future. There's immigrants, there's Muslims that are horrified. To some degree, they're being censored right now by their own people saying, don't talk about this shit in a bar, don't talk about it in public, because of the emboldenment that has happened via Trump. I'm not sure how much of it we can blame on him, but for whatever reason, he held a key that the tumbler just fit this sleeper cell hate groups bigotry that has now been emboldened. And I love Malcolm Gladwell's theory of moral licensing. You need to watch episode 1 of his podcast, History Revisionist or Revisionist History. Moral licensing has to do with when people do a good thing, they feel some kind of license to do a bad thing. And I use the example of like, you've just run a mile, now I'm going to have a piece of cake or whatever. So whenever we do something like elect a black president, there's this sense that humans get in that, all right, the phrase, the end of white guilt went around quite a bit. And so when white people have been, their bigotry has been dormant, and actually kind of just alone in their own hearts because of the rightful shame they should feel by airing it or talking about it or being open about it or confessing it. They're a bigot, they're a dick, these are hateful and fearful, cowardly mindsets, and so they were right to keep it to themselves. But between the internet and the election of Obama, these motherfuckers got together. And, we talk all this time about the beauty and the power of community. I'm a Bart Campolo fan of positive tribalism, and we're pack animals, and we're better together, stronger together, those things. And it's a double-edged sword because bad ideologies are stronger together. It's called mob mentality. It's called strength in numbers, safety in numbers. And again, why are they driven to their tribe? Fear. So fear and safety. Oh, I can be safe with my peeps, and I can not feel like a dick. I can not feel stupid. I can not feel like an idiot with these things that I believe, because all these people, millions of people, can't be wrong. It's part of why Christianity is confirmed and reaffirmed in people's minds. Is like just about the time they think they're going to doubt, they go to church, and their confidence and hope and faith is renewed because the church is full of other people that believe it. I must have been just, thinking something silly because all these other people believe it. Anyway, strength in numbers, and hate groups just blew up because of this moral licensing thing. So anyway, this is what I'm saying is the sleeper cells got up and voted, and it shocked us all. And now we know. And that's a positive for me. Now we know. Like somebody, texted me today, are you worried? Or I forget how they phrased it. But, this is... when stuff comes out into the light, it can be dealt with. And yeah, things are going to get worse before they get better, and that's moral licensing. That's one step back, 2 steps forward. And so yeah, for us, at least for the next 4 years, if not for the next 20, we thought we were on a fast track to progress. And this is a wake-up call to that, and actually a denouncement of that being a fact. It's not a fact anymore. It's almost like we thought we were packed and ready to go on vacation. We get two miles down the road and realize that we left, the sink running, or we left a pan of boiling water on the stove with the fire on, and we thought we were going forward, and we're going to have to go back and fix this. We're going to have to go back and fix this. And that's activism, and I want to encourage that. But I'm concerned about a couple of things. So I literally have stuff written down, and I'm just now looking down at it. Okay. Number one, undoubtedly half the country was going to get angry no matter what, no matter who won. And I believe that we, the liberals, the Democrats, the progressives, handle our anger better and more maturely than Republicans typically. So it's better that it's us. There is a degree in which I think that is undeniably a way of saying this is the better outcome, especially in the short run. In the long run, this is the worst outcome because Supreme Court appointees and all the shit that's going to go down and be reversed, however much is going to be reversed. Everybody knows the main ones as far as marriage equality, Roe v. Wade, Obamacare. There's a lot that could just be reversed, and like everything that gave Obama gray hair was for naught. There's a chance that that's tragic, and there's no way around it. I mean, I'm not saying anything other than the election of Trump was not only a national tragedy, it's a human species tragedy for the planet, for the cosmos, for the future of our existence. Period. Bad. Worst thing. Maybe the worst thing that ever happened. Now, that's yet to be seen as far as played out. But at this point, with the potential of everything that could go wrong, maybe the worst thing that ever happened in history. So back the fuck off when you're looking. Some of you are looking at people that are in mourning or in grief or in shock, kind of similar to how we were after 9/11. This is worse. That's all I'm saying. It's not worse for the 3,000 that died. Don't get me wrong, but All right, so I think it's better that it's us. We handle our anger better. Number two, the next 4 years will truly be the last gasp of right-wing baby boomers and others made gullible by decades of magical thinking, wishful thinking, false hopes, and debilitating fears. And they fear everything and everyone whose mere existence dares to expose their fantasies, like white supremacy or life is good without these other people, or they've got a image in their mind of what they want. It's called Make America Great Again. I mean, it's Make America White Again, or whatever you want to say, but they have in their mind what they want, and you are in the way. And, so we're going to deport you. We might even kill you. Who knows where this goes? I mean, we do know where it goes. We've seen the Holocaust. All right, there's my drop of the Hitler move. So magical thinking for a second. I just want to touch on this. This is a dangerous thing. I mean, I'm talking to the choir here, but man, having a just world hypothesis, and a lot of grown adults have this. But anyway, magical thinking is what happens when people fear these types of realities, that the world is absurd, that life is meaningless, that I'm going to die, and I could die at any time for reasons beyond my control. So literally, we would all walk around, or maybe not even walk around, maybe not even get out of bed because we're paralyzed by the fear of I could die at any second. And so in order for us to paint on a smile and get on and do things and live life, we kind of have to compartmentalize, and there's things that help us do that, and those are master narratives. They're constructs, they're framework, they're scaffolding that we build in our neural pathways of our brain, that compartmentalize stuff so that we literally never think about that because of the help of these narratives, but so that we don't ever have to face it because that's just too much. So magical thinking is, so much, 80% of Americans, whatever, Christian, or at least some Christian influence, we were raised on the Bible stories. We were raised just assuming that God made the eyeball, God made the tree, all of this is too complex for it to just be random. And it sure is a much more comforting narrative than the truth. So magical thinking has completely warped the brains of most of Americans, but if not just warped, it has trained and conditioned the brain to think certain ways. And so for whatever reason, I don't want to try to unpack all the Christian reasons why they supported Trump, but one is that this is God's way. It pleased God to confound the wise, and God is constantly using the unqualified to qualify. He qualifies the unqualified. There's some of these cliches that I can't remember from being a preacher, but so we can see that magical thinking has kind of fucked us up, especially when it comes to admitting things like climate change and just hard facts. Number 3, the carte blanche that the GOP will have by dominating all 3 branches of government completely stacks. This is one of my positive. It stacks all responsibility squarely in the lap of the GOP. Even though this will not hinder them whatsoever from making excuses, we all know. You have majorities in both House and Senate. You got the White House. You got the Supreme Court. And you got half of the populace ready to support you. So the constituency is there for them to do these things. The votes are there to do them, and they're going to do some shit. And even though it's going to be painful and a giant setback for humanity, maybe even an endgame destroyer, it's all on them. I saw Stephen King tweet today that he was quoting these little signs that you see on antique furniture, and it says, "You break it, you own it." And I think obviously what he's meaning is you break the country, or you make mistakes that really hurt and maybe even kill millions of people, you own it. And this is what I'm saying about this third positive, that at least, I mean, it's so ironic, right, that just 6 months ago we were talking about how, look at the GOP is imploding. It's dead. The end of the GOP. I mean, we saw lots of memes like that. And then they come back like gangbusters and fucking own the whole government. So we're in trouble, but there's no thank you, Obama, or thanks, Obama. There's no blame game. There's no scapegoating. It's on you, and we all know it. And so if we live through it, and we have somehow learned how to either use our common sense, or in the other half of the country has gained common sense, then it'll truly be the end of the GOP as far as ever trusting them again with things. Okay, number 4 is about activism and community building that has exploded. I'm telling you, within the next morning, people were gathering, planning get-togethers. I mean, that night, one of the groups that I am a part of, they basically reached out to me and said, "We've got to have a meeting now." I mean, the need for community. And I know this is basically retreating to your corner. I mean, I know that this is a little bit tribal and can be bad if it contributes to more us and them and expands the gap, the chasm that separates us from people that are different than us. It can be bad. But fuck that for now. We are bleeding. So we need to give ourselves a break as far as our desire to be with like-minded people. We need our people in a time like this. And that's okay. It's really okay. So this is what I wrote. These are all these positive points, and this is point number 4. If the explosion of activism and community building that happened in the first 24 hours after Trump's victory is any indication, Trump's election will serve to awaken and ignite political and social engagement by millions of people who have been passively observing from the bleachers until now. This will do much good and may contribute to actually making America great again. It's already great, but greater, thereby indirectly improving the effect of Trump's term on society. He will surely take credit, but we don't care, do we? And this is where I want to be the fucking opposite of Mitch McConnell and Rush Limbaugh. Instead of saying we are out to make Trump a failure, to just say that we're going to oppose everything he does, even stuff that we agree with. Republicans wrote bills that they opposed because Obama got behind it. That fucking makes me so mad. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be it so bad that I don't care that Trump's existence is actually going to make a lot of people come alive and get involved. A lot of good changes are going to come. Sometimes it takes something to push against in order, to make any progress. And we're going to make progress in these next 4 years. And there's a sense where people are going to be stingy with the credit. And I don't really care. I just don't want to have any ounce of Mitch McConnell-ness on me. Number 5, I acknowledge that Trump appears to be a mindless, infantile megalomaniac, thinking ever only of himself, but I've also learned to never underestimate him. And I already addressed this a little bit. Even though there was a lot of amazing factors that synchronized to create even the possibility to crown him president, some of it was his own charisma, and I just want to admit that. Secondly, I want to admit every time he does something right, even down to the fucking sentence in his speech, that, oh, yeah, that was stupid, that was stream of consciousness, that was completely illogical, but that sentence was right. And pan for gold in this guy and anything that comes out of their mouths. I mean, in a way, unlike Mitch McConnell, we have to root for him. I think that's good. I think that's the high road that I'm wanting, and that I'm admonishing others to do. Root for him. I understand he's not my president. I understand that, and I'm not going to say that's not patriotic, because I think it actually can be very patriotic. But I am saying, in the meantime, whether he's your president or not, he is the president of a country that you are a citizen. So you root for him. Whatever he does right, whatever he does good, acknowledge it. That takes the bigger man. All this shit about fighting and violence, no. The bigger man always finds a way to help his enemies succeed. I never have understood the metaphor, but the Bible says, by kindness and love, you put burning coals on their head or whatever. I do think love is the best weapon. I do think MLK was right, that light's the only thing that can dispel darkness, not more darkness. So take the high road and root for him. Case in point, I thought his acceptance speech, or at least a lot of it, was good. You have to take it where you can find it. I thought it was amazing that he was talking about infrastructure so much and building bridges. And I mean, most of the jobs he talked about creating were going to be public sector jobs. Now, you can't do that and lower taxes at the same time, but he'll have to figure that out. All right, number 6, and relevant to this show, Christians have embarrassed themselves once again, and they still don't know it. They're proud of it. And it has prompted millions of people, and will, to question their faith, which, given the typical germination of such doubts and disgust, will produce a massive wave of ex-Christians who will come out in the next couple of years, within his 4-year term. Before 2020, there's going to be a lot of people that are the everyone's agnostic type people, like our guests and myself, people that have deconverted. All of this movement of ex-Christians is going to be completely fueled by a Trump presidency. So, in summary, don't be afraid. Or at least manage your fears. Fear is not a bad thing. It's part of our instincts. It's part of what got us here. It's part of why our genes survived, is we listen to our fears. But fight or flight are not the only two options anymore. I want us to think about ways to manage our fear that keeps us from becoming like the people that elected him. Because fear is what gave us this guy. And unbridled fear is not the tool that I want to use to remove him. So yes, PC culture, safe spaces, all of that, yes, but you have to toughen up as well. So that's my thoughts on the Trump election, and I'm going to have another show out tomorrow. Peace out.